It is. We had another ice storm today. That's what I woke up to this morning. But I'm really blessed to have power. So pleased because I know that so many in the country, including my good friend JD, has been without power for quite some time. But we made it through. Oh yeah, they'll run out of fuel. That's for sure. Have to be very careful. But I don't have a generator. I can actually see me, which I
Yeah,
can't usually do.
yeah. You're wearing your glasses. That okay?
No,
So
you
we
usually get
should
me off the screen.
thank you to our associate producer Barbara, who alerted me that we're having no sound. So I'll repeat myself. We are inaugurating studio, this studio, and now we're smoothing out. Okay, behind me is the front yard of our guest, Katherine Pasour. Let me put Katherine's name up there. Katherine, it's nice to be inside. That's a beautiful scene from the inside of your home. And speaking of home, it's good to be home, but home means a lot of things to a lot of different people. For some people, it's a house. For some people, it's a lonesome place. For some people, it's a place of joy and family and fellowship. But home means a lot of things. But you have blogged today. In the
Yeah,
23rd Psalm, I thought I knew everything about it. I think we've all read the 23rd Psalm at least once, right?
I think we probably have,
But
probably thousands of times.
yeah.
But I've just completed a six-part series on the 23rd Psalm, and this last um, one in my series actually did focus on home because the sixth verse talks about dwelling in the house of the Lord forever. But I'd like to go back and give you just a little bit background. Um, my husband became ill with cancer about a year and a half ago, and a friend of ours gave us a book that would. It's called "Healing for Your Troubled Heart,"
Mm-hmm.
and he was really sick, and so we really didn't have a chance to read it at the time. But I got it out a few months ago because I needed healing because he did pass away from the cancer, so I needed to focus on healing, and so I got it out and read it. And the the amazing thing was, uh, this doctor said that the best healing for a troubled heart was to read the 23rd Psalm 5 times a day. That was the prescription. Read the 23rd Psalm 5 times a day. So I tried it, and it actually did. It did bring peace and comfort because when you really focus on it, instead of just saying the words like we typically do, when you really focus on it and pay attention to what it's saying, and then read some of the background about how David used his own experiences as a shepherd to write the psalm, then it makes it much more meaningful. But that last verse, where it says, "Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever," it really brings us home to a sense of what is home. David was an older man, according to my source. David was an older man when he wrote this psalm. He had already gone beyond being a shepherd, and he'd been a king, and he'd had many trials and tribulations, but he'd also never stopped recognizing that his home, his final dwelling place, would be with his Lord. So I asked the question in the blog, what does home mean to you? What about you, Coach? What does home mean to you?
Well, there's a difference obviously between a house and a home. A home
Mm-hmm.
is a it's like the difference of saying shalom.
Mm-hmm.
Shalom is not just the absence of conflict. Shalom is a peace, okay, an inner peace. So home to me are those family times, those experiences. It doesn't matter where they occurred. Okay, they could home. If you really want my best answer to that, home to me is me and my dad sitting on the lake on a day about as cold as it is there, and ice all around us on that lake, duck hunting, and we'd finished the hunting's over in about half an hour, and we're sitting there, and we're sharing a cup of coffee. From those old, remember those old thermos, the kind that was vacuum sealed, that the plaid, Scotch plaid, I forget what they were called.
With the glass liner.
Yeah, it was, and sometimes it would shatter. Um,
Uh-huh.
but he offered me some coffee. Of course, I was just like 13, but that was kind of an adult beverage to me. It kind of meant more. But as I was reading your blog, I was really impacted by the way you drilled down on certain words, because as you mentioned, I think we've all read the 23rd Psalm to the point it's just a mantra. I mean, it kind of loses some of its depth, and its efficacy. But he used the word surely. Surely. Now, he didn't say, in a way. He didn't just say I will. He said surely I will.
Yeah.
And
He
that
didn't
is,
say maybe
yeah,
or I
or
think.
when I think, I think I will. It's my desire to. But surely is a very, very strong word, and I think that emphasizes the depth of not only his faith, but not only his belief, but his faith that it is internal to him. There are very few things that we say surely. You have a background in education. When you take a test, you're looking for that word always and never. if in the question, because if the question contains always or never, you can almost be certain that it's not true. But he unequivocally says, surely I will dwell.
Right. And to have that type of trust and faith and confidence. That's why I think that when we talk about having a heart like David's, the scripture tells us that David was a man after God's own heart. To have that kind of heart with the Lord, that's what we strive for. And then, of course, we know that David had his troubles. I mean, he wasn't perfect. He was human. He made some mistakes. But
I think they're called indiscretion today.
Well, yeah.
An affair.
You're right. Well, we all have indiscretions too, don't we?
It's sin. Why don't we call it what God called it? It's sin, okay?
Call it what it is. That's right. That's right. But he had full confidence in his Lord, and he knew, where he was going to spend his eternity.
Well, look at the richness of the words that follow. He says, surely I will dwell in the house of the Lord. He didn't say, surely I'll be in hang out. I'll be occupied there. I'll sit down in the house. Dwell, it reminds me of the word that Christ used in the New Testament as he's speaking to his disciples the eve of his crucifixion. He says, abide. Abide. That becomes like be one with, abide. So that word dwell, it's more than, hey, here's the gates of heaven. You walk in and it's like you're visiting Disney, looking around at all the wonders. No, you're a part of it. This is yours. Come in, be comfortable, be at peace.
Right. You belong there.
But right. You're a part
There's
of
a place reserved just for you.
Yes. And there is so much beauty and so much depth. I mean, it's almost 3D when you read it. It's in 3 dimensions. You can mentally transport yourself into the scenery. It's an immersive experience. We use that word a lot in video production. If a video production's good, folks, it's called immersive. You feel like you've become part of the scenery, and that's always a goal. There were some other words downstream of that struck me. Remind me of what was so profound that I loved.
You mean in the psalm itself, or
yes, in the psalm, in the psalm. I don't have it pulled up.
Oh no! Surely your goodness and your love. And, the King James Version uses mercy, which I think is important. I was reading from the NIV and goodness and love, but mercy is a completely different concept than just goodness or love. So I always like to add that in too. But surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, all the days of my life. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord. And then that one last word that says it all, forever. So we're not just going for a visit.
Yeah.
Going there forever.
Yeah.
When you were talking about home being, your first thought was of your dad. So there you were with your earthly father, someone whom you felt really safe with, that you belonged with, and then you have that memory of that special time with him. And that's what home is. It's a safe place. It's a place of rest when we need it. It's a home is when we're with our loved ones, and home is where we find joy. That was just some phrases what home means to me. But it's home. One person made a comment on my blog, and I felt that this is really true too. That home is where we are loved unconditionally, because our loved ones recognize that we make mistakes or indiscretions or sin, as you said. They recognize that because they know that we're human and we're not perfect, but they love us anyway. And that's what God does too, except his love is so big and enormous. It's even beyond our imagination how much he loves us. And we know that because he sent his son to take our place.
I'll raise you one, Catherine.
Okay.
We as Christians know that because we have heard and seen and believe. Okay, but I'm just looking at this scenery out your front porch window. You're out your front window, and in those quiet moments that I have, which are rare, when I see that, I see the majesty of God. The beauty. He didn't have to do this. And if you could go outside, and hear the geese overhead, and you can hear their wings as they fly, and you can see the deer walking, and you see all this stuff that God created that he didn't have to do. Look at the birds. In the wood duck is a particularly spectacularly colored duck. And every time I see something like that in nature, I remind myself, God didn't have to do that. He didn't have to do that. Look at the majesty of his creation. For what? Well, for us to abide in, to live in, to be a part of, or at least that's the way he set it up. He even included some fig leaves in case we used some indiscretion. And we blew it right. First generation.
We blew it right off.
Didn't even make it through the first generation. It's like, I sometimes get mad at Adam and Eve saying, you messed it all up. Well, let's say they didn't. How many generations have there been since then? Do you reckon someone else would have?
I think every generation since then has messed it up too.
I think we all visit that tree, don't we?
Yeah.
We all visit that tree. And the first thing God did is provided restoration, a means of restoration. Very first thing. He wanted that fellowship, that relationship, that fellowship had been broken. And it's God that arrives at the garden. They were running from God. They were hiding from God.
Oh, and don't we do that?
Yeah. Isn't it strange that at the times that people need God the most, they run from him?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it odd when the people, something happens in their life, regular church members just fall through the cracks at a time when they need the church the most? We run from God. Noah ran from God.
Mm-hmm.
Moses did his best. He's sitting there in front of a burning bush that's talking to you, and he's saying, no, you got the wrong guy. Oh, okay, yeah,
Can't do it.
yeah.
No,
Moses, I actually lit this book for someone else out here in the middle of the
get
desert. I don't.
somebody else. Get
Yeah,
somebody else. Isn't
I'm
that what we
sorry.
say?
I didn't know you were going to be passing along here. Just carry on, Moses. Whoever it is I've picked will be coming along within the next 5,000 years, probably.
Hmm.
But God is a God of the mercy. There's not words to describe this. You realize I'm struggling. Mercy,
Hmm.
love, grace, majesty. I mean,
Forgiveness.
forgiveness. I mean, how many superlatives? We can't wrap our minds around it. We cannot comprehend the mind of God. And even if we could, our language is insufficient to fully express
Hmm.
that.
You're
And
right.
I just today, Catherine, we're talking about JD and so many others. Some we know,
Hmm.
but the literally thousands, if not millions, of people here in our country that are suffering. That ice is very beautiful, but you know what? It's beautiful because you're inside, you're warm.
Hmm. Right.
It but God's love is still present. I have been in contact with people today, pastors, who have opened their churches to homeless people. You know, those people that we try to avoid. The people when they come through town and visit the church, the idea is to give them enough provision to get them to the next town and just kind of make them go away.
Hmm.
Because they're not like us.
They're different.
Yeah, they're different. They're sinners. They're not righteous. They might be a bad influence on us. We need to move them along. They're bad for business here.
Hmm.
No, that's not the response of God's people and God's church and His bride. I am thrilled, and I'm doing as Dell would say, a shameless, cheesy promo for our programming tomorrow night. But anyway, this wraps up your blog series. How many? 6 of them, I think, on
It
the
was 6 of them.
Psalms. As our guest last night, when I first became a Christian, she was reading Psalms.
The song. Well, that looks like what it ought to be.
I don't
The,
know how to spell it wrong. We
the
have
English,
palm trees
that's
down
right.
here
The
in
English
Florida,
language is a challenge.
and you would know. What all did you teach, Catherine?
How long? Well, actually, I'm still teaching.
Well, I mean, what did you teach? What
What did I
disciplines?
teach?
Hmm.
I started out teaching physical education, and then I decided I wanted to work with teachers or students that were going to be teachers. So I went back and got an advanced degree so I could teach in college and work with teacher preparation. So I taught health classes for the elementary education majors,
Hmm.
physical education classes for the physical education majors, and research classes for those who wanted to go to graduate school.
Well, it sounds like you've been pretty involved in the health and biology, the human anatomy. I guess that explains why you're so well preserved. You've studied it, and
Well, I do try to focus on wellness. I want to help people of any age have the best life they can by making healthy choices. So that's part of me. Yes.
what's the most common unhealthy choice? What's the crisis right now? Is it soda pop?
Uh,
How far north are you? Is it Coke? Is it
Oh,
tobacco?
I think it's two things. I think it's physical inactivity, and you are a personal trainer. You know how important it is to be physically active. That doesn't mean we have to go to the gym or the weight room every day. It just means we need to be active. Get up, get
Move around.
outside,
Move around.
move.
Hmm.
And then the other thing is the food that we eat.
You know,
We make.
I saw a thing recently, and I'll give you a little background. When I lost 95 pounds in 90 days. Okay,
Oh,
and
that's terrible.
it's terrible that I needed to. I was running 21 miles a day, Catherine.
Oh gosh, but that's you might have
Catherine,
needed to, but that was too fast.
I only do things to
Woo.
excess. You've known me a little while. You know that. But anyway, I was studying about, we eat a lot of starch, carbohydrates. And so in one of the little things I was reading, it said if you ever run out of white bread, okay, here's what you do. I'll demonstrate this, and I read the 23rd Psalm while I prepare this demonstration.
Okay.
Because we're out of time.
Okay. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely, goodness and love will follow me all of the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Amen.
I want to say amen.
You have to.
It seemed like a prayer.
Okay, we're over time, but I have to tell you.
I know.
Okay, if you ever run out of white bread, here's what you can do. If you can't get to the store, if you're locked down in the ice storm, is take a piece of paper, okay, and fold it in half, okay, and then fold it in half again, and then take a tablespoon of sugar and pour it inside the bread and eat it. They are nutritionally about the same.
That's an excellent analogy. That is very true.
And I was reading a thing. It's telling people not to feed bread to the birds and to the ducks because it's bad for them. Well, what do you think it is for us? Have you ever heard of Ezekiel bread?
Ezekiel bread.
ever
I
heard of
have, but refresh my memory.
Okay, there is a bread that you can purchase. It's hard to find, and it's called Ezekiel, whatever the verse is. But in the book of Ezekiel, it actually gives a recipe on how to make bread. And there, you literally can go buy bread that is made by, and do you know, I'm diabetic, okay? Did you know that is the only bread that a diabetic can eat that will not spike their blood sugar?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that strange? Okay,
That is.
we've gone over. What's coming up next in your another blog series?
Now I'm going to do some. I'm actually going to. The ice storm has inspired me to write about cold hearts.
Okay.
So that's going to be next week.
All right. Coming up, that's at KatherinePasour.com. Katherine, it's always a pleasure to have you. You're such an inspiration, and yeah, you're well preserved. You've taken good care of yourself.
You were very kind.
You are the poster child for healthy living, and we appreciate you sharing with us and visiting. And we'll see you next month about this same time.
Okay. So much. I enjoyed it.
All right, I know we're running a little late, folks. There you see. You can't see me, I don't think. But anyway, that is the view of the Eagle's Nest broadcast facilities right here at pjnet.tv as we inaugurate for the first time our studio. Sorry about the technical problems earlier. There's a good reason for that. We're already over. Can't go into that. JD will be here any minute now. And when he gets here, he's got a story to tell that from a year ago. And hopefully he will never have to tell it again. Until that time, I'd like to ask you to ask yourself two important questions. First, what is the boldest thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? And secondly, when was that? I hope none of us will be satisfied with either answer.